Welcome to this session on the topic Project Development Assistance for Sustainable Energy Investments of this year's LIFE Clean Energy Transition, or in short, CET call. This topic has, in fact, and I think that's important to emphasize, a long tradition or history. And this tradition comes not only under the LIFE CET program, but also under the preceding Horizon 2020 and the Intelligent Energy Europe, the IEE programs. Project Development Assistance, or in short PDA, has in fact a number of quite specific features in comparison to other CET calls, live CET topics. It is considered in this context also as key to facilitate the setup of ambitious sustainable energy investment pipelines of scale all across Europe. In this context, it provides technical assistance for project developers to bridge the gap between, on the one hand, the basic project idea, and on the other hand, the actual launch of the related investments on the ground. Or in other words, it provides technical assistance to convert theory into reality. We all know the energy and climate targets of the EU are quite significant, and therefore they also require significant sustainable energy investments. In this context, it is clear that an enhanced mobilization of private capital is absolutely key. Public funds alone would not be sufficient, but they could in the future fulfill a stronger, let's say, catalytic role, for instance, also in the form of various tailored planning approaches. And PDA aims to support such a transition to an also decarbonized and clean energy system by contributing significantly to a number of very concrete policy objectives. In this context, for instance, to the Green Deal goals, including the Green Deal investment plan or also the Repower EU plan to phase out EU dependence on fossil fuel imports. By doing so, it is also expected to increase the competitiveness of European economy and European also companies, also in the private sector. In particular, why and how is PDA contributing in this context? PDA facilitates the preparation and actual launch of investment pipelines of sustainable energy projects. This means of energy efficiency and or renewable energy projects, which are bankable and are ready to finance, and in this context, which mobilize private investments and increase the cost effectiveness of EU and national public budgetary resources. PDA does so by providing and building the necessary technical, economic, and legal skills and expertise for project developers. And activities which are supported under PDA projects in this context could, for instance, include project bundling, various technical studies which are necessary, energy audits, the assessment of financing options for the particular project context, legal advice, the tendering procedure preparation, as well as, for instance, also various large-scale outreach and engagement activities. Proposals can be submitted by various public or private project promoters, ranging, as you can see on the slide, from public authorities via energy service companies, ESCOs, to also industry organizations. The call topic in this context is not really prescriptive, but gives examples as a kind of food for thought. The topic description also indicates a variety of possible exemplary target sectors ranging from existing residential and non-residential buildings via the decarbonization and modernization of existing district heating and cooling networks, existing public infrastructure, up to also industry, businesses and services, as long as the concrete proposals are clearly advancing beyond business as usual approaches. The topic description also mentions as particular or as possible target renewable energy production by energy communities and other citizen-led initiatives, again, if they clearly advance beyond business as usual approaches. And the target sectors which are indicated in the topic description range up to various activities in the mobility sector. Now, as I have already mentioned, the principal objective of the PDA topic is a focus on the preparation of investment pipelines of sustainable energy projects, which are, and this is very important to keep in mind, which are actually launched during the project duration and in this context achieve a minimum leverage effect. I will get back to that in a moment. In this context, PDA projects should also be showcases which deliver innovative solutions to actually accelerate sustainable energy investments all across Europe. Proposals could, in this context, either incorporate an aspect of, let's call it, organizational innovation regarding the mobilization and/or the structuring of the investment program, which could include, for instance, the setup of tailored facilitation structures, project development units, or one-stop shops. It could include the establishment of tailored and target-oriented aggregation and bundling or pooling approaches, or also the setup of efficient procurement procedures for large-scale portfolios of mixed assets. On the other hand, target-oriented financial engineering approaches, with a particular focus again on leveraging private sector investments and financing, can play a prominent role in this context. That can also include, for instance, blending public with private financing, or also an improved combination of existing funds. The topic text in this context lists a few examples, like, for instance, without being exhaustive, energy performance contracting, EPC, dedicated financial instruments, innovative on-bill or on-tax payment schemes, or also community-based financing schemes. Overall, PDA proposals, and also this is important to highlight and to emphasize, should demonstrate a high ambition level, in particular regarding energy savings and also decarbonizations. Examples in this context could be, for instance, deep renovation of buildings, nearly zero energy buildings or zero emission buildings, including also building integrated renewables, positive energy buildings or districts, or also highly energy efficient infrastructure. Overall, and I think this is very important to keep all of that really in mind when preparing new PDA proposals. When developing such future PDA proposals, a number of very specific features need to be kept in mind, need to be taken into account. As I have already mentioned a few times, but this is really key, in a PDA project, sustainable energy investments need to be actually launched during the project duration, not afterwards, during the project duration. In this context, the so-called leverage effect has to be achieved, which means that €1 of EU support needs to result in at least €15 of actual investments, or €10 in case of exclusive investments in residential buildings. Important is also to keep in mind and to address that the initially envisaged investment pipeline in this context has to be identified already in the proposal. The actual investments need to be traceably evidenced by the project end, for instance, by signed work or investment contracts or a similar convincing proof. This evidence should also already clearly be planned and indicated in the proposal, and then has to be submitted by project end. PDA projects also have to address the delivery of an innovative organizational facilitation approach and/or a financing solution for sustainable energy investment projects, with a particular emphasis on private sector funds. And this should be addressed in a proposal and also demonstrated. PDA projects should also contribute to increased skills and capacity to deliver further sustainable energy investments all across Europe. And important in comparison also to other CET topics is that PDA proposals by single applicants or also by applicants from a single eligible countries are in principle feasible. And the expected project size ranges from around 1 to 1.5 million euros, even though also different budgets are possible if they are justified in the concrete project context. PDA proposals, like also all other CET proposals, of course, need to demonstrate the expected impacts of their results, and they need to quantify them for two different time horizons: for the project end and for the point in time 5 years after the project end. And this has to be done really in a well substantiated, reasonable, and a traceable way. In this context, the topic description lists a number of indicators which should be addressed already in the proposal as they are relevant. These include the indicators which are common to the whole LIFE-CET subprogram, namely primary and final energy savings, renewable energy generation, greenhouse gas emission reductions, and investments which are triggered by the project. And the topic description then also names a number of topic-specific indicators or indicators which are really specific for PDA, namely investments which are not only triggered by the project, but actually launched by the end of the project, including also the related leverage. This also includes the number of staff with increased skills within project organizations, the number of organizations with increased capacity to deliver investments and or tailored organizational structures, and last but not least, also the number of jobs directly and indirectly created. Additionally, also activity-specific indicators should be defined in the proposal as relevant. Now, if we look back in PDA history, I've said this is quite rich already, and we have more than 70 projects under contracts at the moment. This means that these also experience can be taken also as a kind of a reference for future PDA projects. And from this PDA history, also a number of success factors can be extracted from past proposals which were actually selected. This includes, and it's very important, the definition already at the proposal stage of a transparent and adequate starting point, like for instance, the clear identification of the targeted investments and of also the market needs and barriers which are addressed and tackled by the proposal during the project duration, as well as a traceable commitment from key stakeholders. Important based on this clear starting point is also the clarity of the concept regarding then the planned organizational and financial approach and also the single investment steps, which could also include financial engineering or the concrete organization and planning of the tailored procurement process. There needs to be a clear emphasis on the expected impacts with respect to the solidity of their estimation, and also a clear focus on the actual monitoring and reporting of these expected impacts. And last but not least, key is also a demonstrated engagement of key stakeholders, be it either ex ante, so at the proposal stage already, or also during the project duration. So how shall this actual engagement be demonstrated and organized in a traceable and credible way? And these key stakeholders include financial stakeholders and also, in particular, financial investment beneficiaries. Now, as I've already said, there is actually a wealth of practical experience which has been generated on the ground by PDA projects which were selected during the past years. And this experience, I suppose, is really worth drawing on when preparing new PDA proposals. As food for thought, I would just like to briefly put the spotlight on two exemplary PDA projects. PDA, the first one is a showcase Horizon 2020 PDA project, which intends to renovate 25 school buildings to NCEP standards all across Cyprus. Financially, it is setting up a dedicated fund for this purpose, which is partly sourced by the EU Cohesion Fund. But the project is also organizationally innovative in that the single sub-projects are bundled in a target-oriented way, and the related procurement is centrally organized by the Cyprus Energy Agency. Large-scale replicability is ensured by cooperation with the National Ministry of Education and also related reach-out. COHEET 2, on the other hand, is a LIFE-PDA project. It aims to demonstrate in southern Denmark and also its 22 municipalities how concrete investments in energy renovations of residential buildings, the transition to a 100% green heating supply and CO2 reductions of 70% by 2030 can be accelerated and implemented via innovative business, technology and replication models implemented by dedicated project development units, or PDUs in short. The focus is on individual heat pumps, local heating of multiple buildings via microgrids, as well as district heating, which is combined with energy renovation of the related buildings. Overall, a quite significant investment volume of approximately 32 million euros is envisaged in this context. Full information on previous Horizon 2020 and LIFE-PDA projects as a potential reference for further projects can be found via Cordis and also the EU Funding and Tenders portal, as you can see on the slide. And also, moreover, future PDA projects could also aim to implement investment concepts developed, for instance, under the EU City Facility or also under various LIFE-CET support to heating and cooling networks, for instance, or industrial clusters, among others. In case of any further general or specific questions on the PDA topic, please also feel free to contact us and to use in this context the email address shown on the screen. Before closing, I would also like to emphasize that a wealth of information on the whole LIFE program is available from diverse sources, and you can also see relevant links on the slide. I will stop here. Thank you very much, and good luck with the preparation of your PDA projects. Thank you.